Okay, so here we are with another DC Mcfarlane Super Friends unboxing, and this is the Flash. He doesn't have his name anywhere on the front of the package, like these figures usually. I think they just use the same card back and change like maybe a little bit in the indicia or whatever. Like, yeah, it says like really tiny there. You see, it says the Flash right above the UPC code. So, got that nice piece of Jose Luis Garcia Lopez artwork on there, which is not artwork that was from the Super Friends cartoon show, but it's artwork that would have been in use in merchandising, at least during the tail end of Super Friends. This is Dick Giordano on the top here, I believe, and that is definitely artwork that was used during the run of Super Friends. Uh, but again, not actually art from the cartoon, but it is made to look, somewhat like the opening credits of the first season with that particular logo and the kind of, rainbow type background. That's all very influenced by that. So I wound up taking last week off kind of accidentally. Like it got to be Thursday and I realized I hadn't done any videos. And I was like, screw it. I already missed most of the week. I might as well just take the rest of the week off. And then it got to be Wednesday this week, and I hadn't done a video yet. So I decided, nope, I'm going to have to do some videos this week. So I'm going to do all these Super Friends figures this week. And that means I'm probably either going to have to double up or do a Sunday show, one or the other. It's going to be one of those things. Earth Dude is here, and he says, "We Batman." So welcome, Earth Dude. So yeah, I'm gonna start with the Flash because he's the one that I think is gonna be the most underwhelming. And I don't want to start off in a negative sort of way, but I've already got some criticisms about this figure that I've seen just from like photographs of the figure. Like before I even had him in hand, there were certain things about this figure that I look at and I'm like, they could have done a better job with this. And I'm gonna get into all that, and I'm gonna discuss what I think could have been done differently to improve this figure. Hang on, let me grab something real quick. All right. Forgot to make sure that I had this Green Arrow figure, or Green Lantern figure. I almost said Green Arrow. I want to make sure I had him over here because we're going to discuss him a little bit too. But yeah, so like most of these figures, this is a line that is a spin-off of the Batman 1966 classic TV show series. Those are very popular figures, and they decided, since here we go. We got Batman right here. We got Batman right here, the original 1966 Batman. And since those did pretty well, Adam West did the voice of Batman on the Filmation Batman cartoon. So we might as well do some figures of that. And then that led into Super Friends, because, of course, Adam West did the voice of Batman in the later seasons of that. It was Olin Soleil in the most of the run of the show. And so a lot of these figures, most of these figures, I think all of these figures, to one extent or another, reuse some parts from the 1966 Batman figures, and even those that don't reuse any parts, and I can't think of any offhand that don't reuse any parts. Even it's still made in that same sort of format, and the Flash is no exception. The Flash reuses a lot of his parts from the Riddler, and that's where a lot of the problems from these figures come from. Lone Dragon's here, and he says, "Hey, it's that guy. Yeah, I'm back." For a minute, but it's all good. It was mainly just like scheduling stuff that wound up like I wound up taking last week off, just kind of halfway accidentally. I took half the week off accidentally and decided I might as well take the rest of the week off. So, but I'm back now. I got plenty of stuff to open up. We're gonna do Super Friends this week, and like I said, I don't know if I have enough days to actually do all the Super Friends figures within this week. So I'm gonna have to either double up or do a show on Sunday one. So and I might do both. Who knows? I might do something else. One of those days. Well, we'll see. We'll see. So anyway, not a whole lot else to talk about with the packaging of these because we've been over the packaging for these figures several times. I will say that he's got one accessory, and it's a little JLA communicator device, and it's just this tiny little thing taking up all this space here. And honestly, if I'm being fair, like, what other accessories are you going to give the Flash? he doesn't really have weapons or anything like that. So Earth Dude says been ordering like mad lately, knockoff Transformers and vintage Mighty Max and Mega Constructs Motu figures. Yeah, I really do like those Mega Constructs figures. Those are pretty cool. So we got the trading card here and a little baggie taped to the back. Got this unusual hand-drawn Flash logo, which I don't remember where that's from. It might have been something from the style guide, and it might have been something that Alex Toth came up with, but I don't remember for certain. I know I've seen it before. I'm drawing a blank as to where. So, like with the Series 1 figures, and it's getting caught on there. Like with the Series 1 figures, it looks like the backs of the trading card are all going to be the same, based on that old DC house ad that would have featured the DC TV comics, which would have included Super Friends. Also would have included Shazam, which had been retooled to match the Shazam television series, and Welcome Back, Kotter. I want to say there was another one, but I can't remember what it would have been. But we've got all the figures from this assortment: Superman, the Flash, Captain Cold, the Cheetah, and the Toy Man. So we're going to have a lot to say about those. By the way, I do have the Universe of Evil version of Superman. So we will be, when I open up Superman, I'll open up Evil Superman at the same time. So that means you're going to get 6 figures from me, even though it's still going to be 5 videos on this assortment of Super Friends. But that's all I got to say about the trading card. Oh, I guess I should give you a good look at the art on the front. It's a pretty nice piece of art. I believe that is Alex Toth from the model sheets for the cartoon. And now let's go ahead and get the figure out of the package. So yeah, I figure we go ahead and start off with the Flash, and we got nowhere to go but up from here. And it's that way we make sure we don't have anything anticlimactic. I figure Superman is probably going to be the last episode in this series. So that means I think the next figure I'll open will be Captain Cold. Since I just opened the Flash, I might as well open the Flash's enemy. So we'll do Captain Cold, then we'll do the Cheetah, then we'll do Toyman, because Toyman is Superman's enemy, and then the climax of this particular group of episodes will be Superman versus Superman. So that should be fun. So here we got the JLA communicator device, and I will say I didn't notice if they did this on any of the other communicators, and I don't see any here on my desk, so I must have put them all away. But I do notice that the JLA communicator actually says JLA on it, so that's pretty impressive. I think you can see that. I don't think you can make out the JLA on the camera quite, but you can at least see the little red markings. It does say. Earth Dude asks if that's vintage Flash on the wall behind you. No, it's not exactly. It's a vintage style Flash Gordon. It's it's the NECA figures, but they put them on card backs to make them look like the old Mattel figures. I'll give you a closer look real quick. We'll take a little break from the episode so you can get a closer look at that. But I believe these are still fairly affordable on eBay. I got these on eBay for like $15 a piece a while back. I don't know if you get them for that cheap or not, but they're pretty cool figures. These are an extra set that I bought just so I could keep them on the cards because I love the card art so much. By the way, for any Masters of the Universe fans out there, the artwork on the Flash Gordon card back was done by none other than Mark Taylor, the brilliant artistic genius who was the main man responsible for the aesthetic of Masters of the Universe, the guy who designed He-Man and Skeletor and Beastman and all those guys. So designed all of the first wave of Masters of the Universe figures, the best Masters of the Universe figures, if we're being honest. So, and yeah, Trapjaw and Triclops, they came along later, and I don't think he designed Trapjaw at all, but yeah, he was the guy mainly responsible for the look of Masters of the Universe. All right, so we got the accessory out of the way. Let's go ahead and talk about the figure itself. And he's got a double rubber tab wrapped around his torso, and it did leave an oily residue on the figure. Hopefully that should just clean right off. And it looks like that's all the rubber tabs we have. Thank Christ. All right, so let's go ahead and get this out of here. Came out very easily. That's good. And he's got the oily residue again at the shoulders. Sometimes these figures are prone to that oily residue. So like I said, this figure is mostly a reuse of the Riddler from the 1966 television series, and that causes some problems as far as adapting this into. I didn't bring the Super Friends Batman over here, but I've got the Filmation Batman, and this should, I think, kind of prove my point. The same applies to the Superpowers Batman or Super Friends Batman, which I didn't bother to get. But for whatever reason, this version of Batman I think worked really well when they translated it into an animated Batman. And even with the belt being wrong, they gave Super Friends Batman a new belt, but that's good. Other than him having like the kind of extraneous wrinkles in the boots and the trunks and the gloves, I think this still works out pretty well for like a Super Friends Batman or a Filmation Batman. It works pretty well for a general Silver Age type Batman. But the Flash, I don't know if the Riddler figure really works so well for that for a lot of reasons. First of all, Frank Gorshin wasn't really quite as buff as Adam West was, and Adam West wasn't exactly like as buff as he could be, like not buff by today's standards, but he was a guy who was considered to be in athletic shape in the 1960s. Like nowadays, he don't have a V and he don't have a six pack, and but he was athletic back in the day, back in the 60s. That was they didn't have quite as many advances, I guess, in diet and exercise and sculpting the body in that bodybuilder kind of way, and they probably could have done that. Bodybuilders were around back then, but it just wasn't the sort of thing that like the average dude did. And Frank Gorshin, I don't want to say he was in bad shape either, but he was in average guy shape. He was in, if Adam West was in, fairly decent athletic shape for the 1960s, Frank Gorshin would have been in decent enough shape, like not in bad shape, but in okay shape. And they put him in tights, and he wasn't very comfortable wearing tights. But like the main problems with this figure, though, come from, I think, certain aspects of the Riddler's costume. Like, I don't know how well this is going to come across on the camera, but I think you can kind of see where the shirt collar is. And if you remember on the television show, the Riddler, and I've got the Filmation Riddler over here so we can compare. He's almost got kind of like a turtleneck, and they didn't make it quite long enough, I think, on the Frank Gorshin figure. But you can see how there's like a collar sculpted into it. So not only where the neck meets the collar, but where the collar meets the shoulders. So there's this whole piece here that really didn't need to be here. And the forearms to me look to be new. They're just kind of sculpted to be plain forearms. And of course the shins are new because they gave him Flash boots, and that's good. And he's got the wings on the boots, just like the Flash has. They did not bother to give him the treads at the bottom of the Flash's shoes, but I don't know if they drew those into the Super Friends cartoon anyway. At least I don't see them on this picture. So that's forgivable because I don't think they actually were on the Super Friends cartoon. But the collar causes some problems. He's got trunks, which the Flash never had trunks. You can see he doesn't have trunks on here. It's just plain red tights. And to me, the thing that stands out the most and does not work is the belt. And he does have the same belt, like this thick leather belt that Frank Gorshin had on the television show. And it was just a plain lavender belt that, Gorshin had over his green tights, and nice thick belt. And the Flash still has that. And they just kind of painted the lightning bolt over it. And I think it would have worked better if this belt just wasn't here. Like, this is why I bought Green Lantern over here. So Green Lantern reused the Superman body, and you can see that he's got just kind of they gave him his own pelvis, which is just plain. Now I don't know if they glued the Superman belt over the plain pelvis or if they resculpted the pelvis to be plain for Green Lantern. I don't know. I'd have to take the belt off of Superman to figure that out. Earth Dude says he reminds me of the Sheldon Cooper in cosplay. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think Sheldon would take that as a compliment too. It would have worked better if they hadn't just reused this body for the Flash instead of reusing the Riddler body. I think that that would have worked better. Now, I speculate. I don't know exactly if this is the reason, but I speculate the reason why is because they didn't want the Flash to be as muscular as Superman and Green Lantern. That they wanted the Flash to be, a bit more lean, like he usually is depicted in the comic books. Usually, the Flash is not depicted as being quite as jacked as the other superheroes. He's got like a lean, kind of lithe runner's physique. He's a guy who's built for running, not a guy who's built for strength. So it makes sense that they'd want to give him like a slightly smaller body than the other guys. But I don't know if I think that works. I think it would have worked better if maybe the torso would have worked if they had have like bothered to retool it so that it didn't have the collar. And really, the Flash probably should, even if they use, I think they could have used this as the basis, but they should have retooled basically all the parts except for the upper arms. I think they should have retooled the legs to not have tights. They should have retooled the pelvis so it doesn't have a belt, and they should have retooled the torso so it doesn't have a collar. And then that would have made this guy great. But as it is, he's only kind of okay. This is not the worst figure that I've seen in this line. And by this line, I don't mean Super Friends. I mean like the whole going back to Batman 66. If we're counting all of this is one big line. It's not the worst. The worst would be that 1966 Superman. That's the worst that I've had anyway. But but as he probably is the worst that I've opened up in the Super Friends proper sort of line. But he's not bad. He's not horrible. He's just not great, and he could have been great. And let's talk about some of the things that are great on this figure, because there are some things that I think are great on this figure and that they did do a good job with. First of all, the head sculpt is perfect. It does look just like Alex Toth's artwork. Like the way that he drew the Flash, there was kind of a weird sort of thing that he did with the mask, where if you look at him with this angle, like this part of the mask, like on this side, would just completely sort of disappear the way he drew it. And it still looked like it was there, but it also didn't look like it was there. And I think they caught that pretty well. Like it definitely like kind of disappears into the face. I think it's because of how narrow, you see how narrow this part of the mask is right here, and it thickens up a bit here, but right here it's really narrow, and I think that's what does it. And I know a lot of people watching this who aren't intimately familiar with Super Friends. Maybe you've seen an episode or two, but maybe you're more familiar with the Flash and the comics, would look at this emblem and be like, why is this emblem like all yellow like that? Shouldn't it be like a yellow lightning bolt over a white circle? But no, that is actually how they colored it on the Super Friends cartoon. It was a yellow lightning bolt over a yellow circle. Now, why did they color it that way? I don't know. It wasn't an error. They did it on purpose because they always did it with the Flash. It's not like the reverse bat symbol or Superman emblem that you would see from time to time. It was always a yellow lightning bolt over a yellow circle. My guess is to make it easier on the animators, rather than have to go to a completely different color, just make the whole thing yellow, because it's like it's not gonna look that different on old TVs anyway. And indeed, a lot of the time, sometimes you'll see when they paint in Batman's face, sometimes they'll paint his eyes. Sometimes, not always, they'll paint his eyes in flesh color. And I think that's just to get the cell painted faster, to move it along. So we use one less color. These kids probably aren't going to notice. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. So yeah, the head sculpt of the Flash is the great, nice detail on the wings, on the ears, captures that Art Deco look like they're supposed to have. And while I was critical about them having the Riddler's belt on there, and I kind of feel like they should have redone this so it was one solid piece without the belt on there, I have to say that the printing of the lightning bolt on the belt looks awesome, and they did a great job with it. And I love how they put a black outline around this stuff. Like if you remember my multiverse classic Superman review, you remember that I was critical of the black outline on his emblem there. But here it makes it look more like a cartoon show. So I like it. I think it works better on this figure than it did on that Superman figure. Bobby Wald is here, and he says, ever since I saw the Justice League movie and the way they have the Flash run there, looks like a girl who's had way too many wine coolers rushing to the floor. What do you mean looks like? Ezra Miller is a girl who had way too many wine coolers rushing to the floor. Well, at least Ezra is non-binary, but that's like part girl, right? I don't know how that works. I'm not trying to be critical, and I'm not trying to be insensitive, but like if you're non-binary, that means you're like not a girl and not a boy. You're part girl, part. I don't know. Correct me in the comments if you disagree with me. I don't mind. I don't mind being educated as far as that goes. I'm not trying to mock. I'm not trying. And like from what I understand, I heard that Ezra Miller went back to using he, him pronouns. I don't know if that's true or not, but it is something that I'd heard. But yeah, Ezra Miller, like, I don't want to like talk too much smack about Ezra Miller. And like I know the guy Ezra's had like some personal demons they've been having to fight. So like done a lot of weird stuff, wild stuff. But not anything to do with being non-binary. Just like kind of went a little overboard in some ways. We don't need to get too into the details on that. And I hope they're getting the help they really need. And best of luck to them. But I do feel like talented actor, very talented actor. I've seen a lot of great performances out of Ezra Miller, but I do feel like Ezra Miller was kind of miscast as the Flash. Like, I don't think that the acting was bad, but I don't think that character was Barry Allen either, if that makes any sense. To me, Barry Allen is not like some weird quirky guy like that. Barry Allen is the opposite. Like Wally, he could have maybe been Wally West. And they try to make Barry into Wally West these days. I don't know why you brought back Barry Allen if you're just going to try to turn him into Wally West. But Barry Allen is supposed to be a very sort of stiff, sort of stick in the mud kind of character. Very sort of like a nice guy, kind of bland, not too interesting to talk to at a party, but you still want to go say hi to him because he's a nice guy and you like him, but you're not going to have a very interesting conversation with this fellow. I think that they did a great job with Barry on Young Justice, where like he would be the guy who would make like bad dad jokes, and everybody loved this guy. Everybody loved the guy because he's a nice guy, but everybody kind of also is just kind of like, man, that guy's a dork. I mean, I love the guy, but isn't he just a giant dork? That's Barry Allen to me. And to me, Wally is the one you'd want to be weird and quirky. Lone Dragon says everybody is non-binary. Ain't nobody two people unless you have a clone. That's a good point. I told a friend of mine once that they felt like they were non-binary because sometimes they felt like a girl and sometimes they felt like a boy. And I'm like, you know what? Everybody's like that. I'm a pretty masculine dude, but I got some feminine qualities too. I think maybe for some people it's just a little closer to 50-50 than it is to 70-30 or in my case 90-10. We'll just put it that way. Max Games and Toys in here, and he says we need more Masters of the Universe. Well, aren't you in luck? Because I happen to have a whole lot of Masters of the Universe stuff coming up to open. And I don't know when exactly I'm going to get around to opening it, but I'll tell you what I have in hand right now is I have the new Etheria version of She-Ra from Masterverse. I've got the new Eternia version of Beastman from Masterverse. I've got Battle Cat Man from Master Universe versus Thundercats. I finally have, I think you were the one who was asking me about this before, Max, Turtles of Grayskull. I have Ram Man. Finally got around to getting the Turtles of Grayskull version of Ram Man. And in my pile of loot, at Big Bad Toy Store. I have the Masterverse version of Tila. I have the Masterverse version of Cobra Khan. I've got the cartoon collection versions of Whiplash, Bo, and Shadow Weaver. So all of those should be coming to me very shortly, not to mention the Thundercats version of He-Man. So yeah, we are going to have a ton of Masters Universe stuff coming up. Stay tuned. I promise you it's on the way. And I spent so much time talking about that, I missed some comments. Bobby Wald said, "You're the man's man when they make a Masters of the Universe figure after you. You were definitely the inspiration for that newest King Randor." Look, I'm not saying they based that King Randor figure off of me. I'm just saying if they based the King Randor figure off of me, it would look exactly like that figure. So, like, if somebody at Mattel is watching these videos and said, "Hey, you know what? He-Man's dad should look like that guy," that's what would happen. I'm just throwing it out there. That's I like having an action figure of myself, so I was very flattered by that. Well, I was too manly to be He-Man. I had to be He-Man's dad. Lone Dragon says, "I got the brown suit protector of Metropolis." Oh, what? Brown suit protector of Metropolis. Gangbuster? You got Gangbuster? Is that the one? Max Games and Toys says, "Yeah, that sounds great to me. Yeah, you know you're going to be looking for it. To stay tuned." And he says, "I can't wait for the 2000X cartoon collection. Likewise, I'm really excited for those too, especially because like 2000X was kind of considered to be kind of untouchable by Mattel for a long time. Like listening to them talk about making Masters Universe classics, like upper management didn't want them to touch 2000X for the longest time. But it's nice to finally see some love for it. I think it's a part of Masters Universe history that I really appreciate anyway. Lone Dragon says, "Shaggy and the Creeper. It wasn't me." Lone Dragon says, "Protector of Metropolis is a third-party Clark Kent figure from Muff Toys." Oh, well, I haven't heard about that. I'm gonna have to check that out. I'm gonna have to look that up. That sounds. Is it Mcfarlane scale? That sounds cool to me. I'd like to have a Clark Kent figure from my Mcfarlane figures. So I was thinking maybe if I could get a Lex Luthor, another Lex. I got a couple of Lex Luthors, but if I could get one of those for cheap, one of the figures I might do with that is uh, do an extra Lex Luthor. Bobby Walt says, "Careful with comments like that. You're challenging Mattel to take ownership of your likeness, and pretty soon you'll be Mattel property." Well, I buy enough stuff from Mattel already, so I kind of feel like I owe my soul to the company store. So yeah, that's that would not be an unusual thing to do. So okay, so we had some fun in the chat. I had fun talking with you guys. I missed this. I really did. So we're going to have to get back to talking about the action figure for a little. I'm still going to talk with the chat some, but I'm going to talk about the articulation on this figure. So the Flash can look up about that far and look down about that far, and can't really tilt his head to the side very much, but a little bit. I don't think that these heads are actually meant to have kind of side to side movement like that. I think they're just made to rotate all the way around. So anytime you can get any kind of side to side movement out of it is a bonus. Like, I think they're technically ball jointed, but not in such a way that's supposed to encourage that kind of side to side movement. It's just supposed to rotate around. So I think so. The arms rotate all around the shoulders, but of course, since the shoulders kind of flare out a little bit, it kind of bumps into that. Again, this is something going back to the Frank Gorshin Riddler figure. So he does have a single joint of articulation at the elbow, which straightens out about like that, bends in about like that, and rotates all the way around. And then he's got a wrist that rotates all the way around. These are more simplistic than your Mcfarlane multiverse figures, but still a little more complex than a superpowers figure. It's somewhere in between. And this arm is just sticking like heck. It moves like this pretty well, but the up and down movement is where it's kind of giving me a hard time. Even though it's got that oily residue on there. Did they just put the oil everywhere but actually inside the joint? I think I got it loosened up now. Flash can rotate all the way around at the waist, and its legs can kick up about that far. Now, thankfully, He does not have the buttocks sculpted onto the trunks. The buttocks are sculpted onto the thighs instead of the trunks. So we can move his leg back a little bit like that. He can do the splits, no problem. But more importantly for the Flash, that means that it's easier to get him into like a really great running position. And why don't we do that right now? So we'll sling that arm forward, sling this arm back, and there we go. Runs into action. Very cool. Doesn't look too different from the artwork on the trading card. I got it kind of the reverse of that. So yeah, and then that's it for the thighs, and then the knees. Got a single joint articulation at the knee. That's how it straightens up. That's about how far it bends, so about 90 degrees, and then that rotates all the way around. No ankle articulation, no toe articulation, nothing like that. Like I said, a little more simple than your typical DC multiverse figure, but still a little more articulation than you get out of superpowers. So kind of somewhere in between. These are I think technically called retro figures, but they're not like any figures that I remember from the 80s and certainly not the 70s. They're actually a little closer to what action figures would have been like in like the early 1990s, I suppose. But I guess early 1990s is retro now. I'm just an old man, so that's just how that's going to be. Anyway, that's pretty much it for the Flash. I do recommend this figure because if you're collecting these Super Friends figures, obviously you're going to want to have the Flash. But I do think that that to me he's the weakest of these that I've opened up so far. And I hate to say it because it's not really, like I said, not really a bad figure. So I don't want to slam on it too bad. But it's a figure that could have been better in a lot of ways. And when I point things like this out, I'm basically pointing things like this. Oh, Lone Dragon just sent me a link. I'm betting that's that Clark Kent figure he was talking about. So I'll try to remember to check that out as soon as I'm done with the stream. Thank you, Lone Dragon. But yeah, it's an okay figure that I think could have been better. And with a few tweaks, it could have been a great figure. Now, I figure most of these reasons, like I said, are because of budgetary reasons. This is probably a line that lives and breathes just on the fact that it's a cheap line to put out. Yeah, Lone Dragon says, Linky, the blue suit protector, brown suit is limited. Well, if I'm going to have Clark Kent, I would rather have him in a blue suit. If that's my two options, blue is the one I would go with. But brown is cool too, because that reminds me a lot of like kind of those early Bronze Age, like around the time like Dennis O'Neil was writing Superman, like Kryptonite Nevermore and that kind of thing, and the Jack Kirby run on Jimmy Olsen. Bobby Wold says, "What do you think? Who do you think is the fastest Flash, Superman, or Quicksilver? According to Sega Sonic, he's the fastest thing alive." Well, now that I think about it, yeah, the Sonic theme song does say that Sonic is the fastest thing alive. The Flash theme song says he's the fastest man alive. And I guess if a man is a thing, then I guess that Sega is saying that Sonic is faster. They're probably a little biased. So I would say if I got to put it down to who's fastest, we really need to see the Flash and Sonic race, don't we? We need to get that down. I think that's something that's going to be the Flash equivalent of Superman versus Goku, like the fight for Superman versus Goku. That's the same as like who's stronger between Superman and Goku, who's faster between the Flash and Sonic. That would be one of those things. Flash is definitely canonically faster than Quicksilver. Quicksilver, I think, can go like the speed, like a few times above the speed of sound, like Mach 3 or something like that. The Flash can run fast enough to outrun time. So yeah, that's and my rule about Superman is that if Superman has the same power as another guy who only has that one power, then that guy can do that power better than Superman. So I'm going to say the Flash is faster than the Superman, at least in terms of running. Maybe maybe Superman can fly faster than the Flash can run. I'll give him that, but he can't run faster than the Flash. Just like Superman's not stronger than the Hulk, and Superman can't fly as well as Hawkman. I don't know what that means, but it does mean that. Lone Dragon says his brown suit has a black Superman costume underneath. Blue suit has a standard Superman costume underneath. Interesting. Yeah, well, I guess I would have liked to have that. I also would have liked to have that brown version then, just because I like the black Superman. You know, I love the black Superman suit. Uh, but yeah, I would say that the Flash, at least running, is yeah. Tom Cruise is a fast runner, says Lone Dragon, but yeah, but he's fast. He's fast for a human. You know, the Flash is fast for a superhero. So, and apparently, Tom Cruise was a big fan of the Flash movie and said that that was the exact movie that people needed at the time. Oh well, thanks, Tom Cruise. Oh yeah, that's it for the Flash. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure that you like, subscribe, all the fun YouTube stuff down below. YouTube likes it when I say like and subscribe. And if you like and subscribe, that'll help you make sure that you won't miss the next video where I'm planning on opening up Captain Cold, who I'm really excited about opening up this guy. You know, like when I was a kid, I always wanted an action figure of Captain Cold. Always wanted a superpowers figure of Captain Cold. And Mcfarlane has given us a multiverse Captain Cold and a Super Friends Captain Cold. Still didn't give me a superpowers Captain Cold, but they gave me Sinestro and Bizarro. So like I guess you can't win them all. I'll just be happy with having Sinestro and Bizarro, and I'll custom make the rest of the Legion of Doom myself. That's all I can do. So next episode, Captain Cold. Episode after that will be Cheetah, and then the Toy Man, and then finally Superman versus Evil Superman. But that's it for the Flash. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like and subscribe. YouTube likes it when I say like and subscribe, so I say like and subscribe. I also like it when you leave comments. I think YouTube likes it when you leave comments. So it's good for everybody when you leave comments. So leave comments. I like it when you leave comments. I always have a lot of people in the chat, and most videos get one or two comments, but comments are good. I like comments. Bobby Wald says you saw Family Guy's explanation why you so fast, right? No, actually, I haven't seen that. I'll look that up on YouTube later. Bobby Wald says yeah, I was sending him the link to that. That's why I said Lone Dragon says. So Lone Dragon says, yeah, I was sending him the link to that. That's why I said it. Okay, cool. So, but yeah, I'll check that out later. So yeah, that's it for this episode. Sorry, I was a little hard on this figure. He's not, like I said, not really a bad figure, but it could have been better. It could have been better. Let's be honest. Let's be real. So I'm gonna go and put him on the stand. I'm about to go take the thumbnail for this picture. Thumbnail picture for this figure, and hopefully I can get him to stand on one leg. I like to take pictures of my speedsters while they're running. So, and I did get a good running pose out of him. It'd be a shame to waste it. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoy it. We'll talk to you next time. Bye. Come on.